Ready. Play.
And moving over to the other quarterfinal, I remember speaking to you yesterday, and you were sort of quietly optimistic about, was it Sonego you were talking about yesterday? And you said actually you looked at the draw beforehand and how it might not be too bad for the Italian.
Yeah, well, look, I'm gonna go with Shelton, but here's what my feeling that Sonego, he's handled the cut. He's beaten these two next gen final. He's dealt with the next gen.
Yeah.
Right. Those are two of his best wins, were to stop the Brazilian in his tracks and to beat Tien, who was on his great run. And he opened with a good win over Stan Wawrinka, hard-fought four-setter. He's had a terrific turn. What's impressed me about him that could keep him in the match, although I still think in the end Shelton wins, is his serve. I've never seen him serve like that. Tien was breaking people starting with the first round, but then against Medvedev, maybe 8 breaks. Unbelievable return success rate in terms of breaking serve. And then he breaks Sonego once. Sonego served 20 aces. So I feel like, that's a department that I've never seen quite that sustained, I don't want to say excellence, but sustained consistency on serve. And with a lot of power, too. I think averaging 190, averaging above what I've seen from him in the past, and, look around the 120 mark. I've just been impressed with that, and it's taken a load off his shoulders, and he's getting a lot of free points. And if he can do that, he may do that to a certain extent against Ben, but I just feel like in the end, Shelton with his left hand, he's going to make life very difficult for Sonego with that wide serve in the ad court, the lefty spins, the kick serves, and it's going to be very tricky for Sonego to find a way to break himself. So they could have close sets, and I expect it to go 4, potentially even 5, but in the end, I kind of like Shelton's chances. That matchup to me is a pretty good one for him, but I have to say Sonego has impressed me tremendously in this tournament.
Shelton is building up a bit of Grand Slam pedigree already at such a young age in terms of deep runs now in Australia and in New York.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something else that I've felt, and this is the eye test more than anything else. I felt that amongst the Americans, Shelton maybe is the one, I'm thinking of Tiafoe Fritz, Tommy Paul, Seb Korda as well, all sort of, top 20, top 30 players and have been for quite a long time. We've got another one there, Brandon Nakashima as well, who's there or thereabouts and may well, sort of get top 20 someday soon. But Shelton's the one. I don't know. I just feel as though his athleticism is incredible. That spinny lefty, forehand, I think will give him, a lot of advantages. And that serve, when it's on fire, is just unreturnable. There are 1 or 2 other weaknesses in his game, particularly the return of serve, I think. But I don't know. There's something about Ben that I think he might well be the one to get that first Grand Slam title for the US in, I think, over 2 decades.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that assessment. I've felt that really ever since 2 years ago, when he made that 23 US Open semi and quarters here. And, he had some hard setbacks last year, but he still was progressing in his own way. And now we're seeing the fruition of all that work. Yeah, he needs to improve off the ground some. The forehand is a big shot, but Monfils really had him at times a bit confounded with variations of pace and hitting looping shots and coaxing errors out of Ben. That can happen. He can be outmaneuvered from the baseline by certain guys, but I feel like he's improved there from the baseline. The serve is devilish, and in terms of your long-term assessment going beyond this match, yeah, I've felt that for quite some time. Of those guys, I mean, to me, Fritz has hit his ceiling. Let him prove me wrong. I hope he does, because he's a great guy. To get to 4 in the world and be in the U.S. Open final and be in the year-end championships final last year, tremendous effort. But I just feel like I don't see Taylor. I would have been shocked if he beat Sinner in that final. There's going to come a point with Shelton in a year or two where I won't be shocked if he plays a great final against an Alcaraz or Sinner and actually comes away with a win. Not this year, I don't think, but I think by 26, he's going to be knocking on that door.
Yep, I agree. I think, I just couldn't see a path to victory for Taylor in that US Open final against Yannick, much as I find it difficult to imagine De Minaur beating Yannick in this year's quarterfinals in Australia. The Sonego Shelton head-to-head is 1 each. They've not played each other since 2023, and that was on clay. They did have an outdoor hard match, which went the way of Shelton's in 2022. Which way are you leaning, therefore, for this Shelton Sonego one? I think we probably already know. I think you've already touched upon it.
Yeah, no, I'm going with Shelton, and I'm a little conflicted about 4 or 5 sets, but I'm going to say close 4-setter. But I like his chance. I expect Sonego to play very well and make it highly competitive. Would I be shocked if Sonego won? No, but I'm giving Shelton the edge. I'm going to say 4 hard-fought sets. You?
Me too. Yeah. I mean, despite the fact that that Ben is younger than Lorenzo, he's actually got more pedigree at this level, as we've seen already in going deep in now both Australia and in New York. And yeah, I just think that he'll have too much for Lorenzo on the day. Oh, 4 sets. I'm going with.
Yeah. We're in accord.
Yeah.
And
we've both got straight sets for Yannick as well, I think, haven't we? So
what's that? Sorry.
We've both gone for straight sets for Yannick as well.
Right. No, I'm thinking, though, as we're saying this, John, that that would be a very intriguing semifinal.
I'm thinking the same.
Yeah. And I don't expect him to win it right now, but I expect him to give him a scare. And he has beaten Sinner. He's got a win over Sinner. And I think right now, probably ends up losing a tight 4-setter, but he could make it very interesting.
Definitely, and we just sort of touched upon that Taylor Fritz Yannick Sinner US Open final, and we also talked about how Ben, you don't know, he's a box of tricks himself. I saw him at close quarters in the UTS tournament in Frankfurt last year, and I know it's a showy sort of exhibition type thing. Although don't tell Patrick Mouratoglou that, but you still saw the shot making there, and you saw Ben, at his absolute best and relaxed as well. I like that dynamic that's going on with his father. We see other, families involved with their players and sometimes to their detriment, but I don't see that with Ben's father. I think he's a really, really good influence on him, at least for now. And yeah, the sky is the limit for Ben. And yeah, I expect him to beat Sonego one way or another. And yeah, it might be 4 close sets. When you were humming and hawing over 4 and 5, I just thought, Sonego's played a lot of tennis this last 10 days. And if it does go 5, I'd favor Ben, but I think he'll probably get the job done in 4.
Yeah, and let me just chime in very briefly. I couldn't agree more again about his dad. I mean, his father has done a superb job, and it's usually so difficult for guys in his position. The camera's on him. He's sometimes giving Ben advice, but he stays relaxed. He's upbeat. It's never negative. The exact opposite of Stefanos Tsitsipas' father.
Yeah.
They're polar opposites. So I see that lasting as long as they wanted to. But I could also see Brian, could see his father at a certain point, if he felt Ben would benefit from somebody else coming in, I think he would be the first to say, I'll step aside. I think this is the guy for you. But for now, it's working quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. Much like Tony did with Rafa, I mean, had a very good partnership, but there was a point when he's like, you know what? I think maybe now it's time for somebody else, Carlos Moore, to take over.
Yeah, right.
So if that is the semi-final, as we sort of suggested already, I think it'll be pretty special. But whatever happens in these 2 matches, and by the way, Steve and I have both been wrong before and we'll be wrong again. And who knows, in a couple of days from now, we may be going, oh my goodness, how dare we write off Alex de Minaur and to a less extent, Lorenzo Sonego. But we're looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you again, Steve, soon.
And just a final comment, John, if we were right all the time, I mean, how interesting would it be? We've got to be wrong. And I think fans feel that way as well. There's a certain amount of predictability you may want, but that's what makes the game so intriguing. So you never can be that certain what's going to happen. But I feel like in the case of these 2 quarterfinals today, we're going to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I do too. And yes, we're going to be wrong about many predictions, and we may well be wrong about Shelton Sonego, especially with the way it pans out. But if we're wrong about Sinner and De Minaur, I think people will understand why we came to the conclusion we did. It's just we could get lucky and predict a De Minaur win and De Minaur wins, but there's nothing in the previous couple of years that suggests that's going to happen. And sometimes I always say to people, not just in this game of predictions, but in life in general, if you end up making a mistake, but you've gone through all the processes and you've made your sort of case and it makes sense, in a way, there's not much more you can do, especially in a sport as unpredictable as tennis.
Absolutely. Well, I enjoyed it, John. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Steve, and we'll speak to you soon. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.